Hi, good afternoon. I am Paulina Machado and I will be presenting about global business trends. As our index, we will start with an introduction, then follow up with the global economic trends, global population trends, global technology trends, global cultural trends, global ecological trends, global labor relations trends, global education trends, and finally our conclusion. There are many aspects to look after when wanting to invest in a new emerging market, as so many factors which can be correlated are into play. But in order to succeed, we should take these trends as guidelines, not facts, as people and trends are ever changing. Starting with global economic trends, we can define these as current issues that are shaping the future. Also, we must say that global economic trends are not a prediction of what is going to happen. It is merely a statement about what is currently happening. Global economic trends are currently used by organizations and governments to make choices about international competitiveness, new product launch, economic efficiency choices, and strategies for better economic efficiency and market competition. Also, global growth is set to rise by 2.5 in 2020, which is a small increase from 2.4 in 2019, as trade and investment gradually recover from the 2008 world crisis. It is also predicted that advanced markets will slow, while emerging markets will grow due to this small increase from 2019's global growth. Going on to global population trends, population growth reached a first peak in 1962 and 1963, with an annual growth rate of 2.2%. But since then, world population growth has halved to 1.05% per year. The next peak came in the 1980s, when there was over 90 million additional people each year. We can see this peak in the chart provided. Thanks to this, starting from our current year, the UN expects a 1 million people decline every year. Also, trends that affect population can also be changes in fertility rates and life expectancy. In the early 1970s, women had an average of 4.5 children each. But by 2015, total fertility for the world had fallen to below 2.5 children per woman. This adds to the amount of people that are in the world. Also, life expectancy, which had risen from 64.6 years in the early 1990s to 70.8 years today, meaning there's more people who are alive at the same time in the world. Also, high levels of urbanization have made people go from the suburbs or the rural areas to the city, creating more demand for expanding and therefore creating more demand for more people. Now moving on to global technology trends. For our first point, we have digitalization forces to new solution orientation. For companies, it is necessary to master the digital transformation we are currently going through. Confronting new and exciting technological problems will need new innovations that have to be developed and deployed by these same companies. Also, Industry 4.0 will link the real-life factory with virtual reality. This will play an increasingly important role in global manufacturing. Companies have to obtain new digital capabilities in order to make their companies sustainable and compatible for future technologies. These technologies can be such as macro technology, which looks at companies and manufacturing processes as a whole instead of replacing just one machine. Also, AI field organizations, which can take over repetitive jobs that require paperwork or a lot of computer looking and organization, such as banks or office jobs. For global cultural trends, we have that growing global workforce makes for more global citizens. This means that people will migrate for career and life experiences to discover new cultures. This demand for affinity networks and familiar touchpoints will let us learn and share across conventional borders. Also, we have mindful consumerism, which refers to cultural storytelling, authenticity, and craftsmanship, which are currently rising in demand as we return to local sourcing and manufacturing. There will also be a rise in mobile education, such as MOOCs or Massive Open Online Course, which will result in a major educational transformation. Code Academy also wants to turn tech consumers into empowered code builders. And finally, with cloud health, it is foreseen that chronic diseases will account for almost 75% of all deaths worldwide. This means that cloud health will evolve as a quantified self apps, mobile diagnostics, and intuitive biofeedback will become active resources in our daily lives. For global ecological trends, some consumers, governments, and businesses are waking up to the fact that consequences of the throwaway culture are many. So they have taken bold steps to reduce the amount of plastic that is generated and disposed. This can be referred to as the plastic kickback. Also, the climate crisis has led to a rise in migration. It is expected that more people will seek to migrate to safety from these threats. These mass migrations will require changes in government priorities and policies to cope with these potential humanitarian crises. With the rise of participatory democracy, to combat rising levels of nationalism and protectionism, some cities and states are turning to new ways of engaging people in their governments beyond voting. These innovative approaches could herald a new era of local decision-making and civic participation, which will include new methods of citizen engagement. With the global labor trends, there are major gaps in work access. A more comprehensive measure of the underutilization of people of working age reveals major gaps in access to work. The rate of total labor underutilization is pronounced and greatly exceeds that of unemployment. Also, with deficiencies in work quality, decent work deficits are especially pronounced in the informal economy, which registers the highest rates of in-work poverty and high shares of people who are own account self-employed or contributing family workers who lack adequate protection. Also, inequalities and widespread decent work deficits not only lead to economic inefficiency, they can also undermine social cohesion within countries. Thanks to the International Labour Organization, with a report from 2020, it is said that in 7 out of 11 sub-regions of the world, there is an increased incidence of protests. Going with global education trends, we will see that globalization will have a pressure to integrate diverse students into schools. This is because the majority of the world population will consist of the middle class, a trend that is largely being driven by China and India, which will make up 90% of the entrance to the middle class. This will not only increase pressure to provide better education for more people, but it will also place higher expectations on education for more demanding customers. Also, with digitalization, it's known that education is very behind the digitalization curve. It must do more to take advantage of the tools and strengths of new technologies while simultaneously addressing concerns around potential misuse, such as cyberbullying and privacy issues. Finally, aging and labor market insecurity. As pressure will mount for access to high-quality reskilling and upskilling opportunities, older adults have inadequate skills to manage complex digital information. Governments and employers need to seriously address what it would take to deliver education that is not only lifelong, but life-wide. After talking about the different factors that are into play when planning to invest in an emerging market, as statistics and past trends can help create a guide, it is important to take into account that nothing is set in stone, and companies should always oversee any major change in market trends that can have a big effect on the company if not properly prepared.